The Galactic Empire had underestimated humanity. After their relentless conquest of Earth, they deemed its people fragile, easy to control. But beneath the surface of compliance, resistance thrived in the shadows. Sergeant Daniel Cross had evaded capture for months, operating behind enemy lines, striking key supply chains, and vanishing before the Imperials could retaliate. But even the best soldiers had limits. His luck ran out in the industrial ruins of what was once Denver. The night air was thick with the scent of charred metal and damp concrete. Daniel crouched low behind a crumbling pillar, his pulse steady despite the sound of approaching boots. He had already taken out 2 patrols, but the enemy was adapting. They were sweeping in tighter formations now, cutting off exits before he could exploit them. He adjusted the grip on his combat knife, its edge dull from overuse. His sidearm had 3 rounds left. Not enough. A shadow loomed behind him. He spun too late. A massive reptilian hand struck his chest, sending him skidding across the ground. He rolled to his feet, but another figure closed in, swinging a plasma baton. The weapon crackled as it connected, pain lancing through his ribs. He gritted his teeth and slashed upward, carving through alien flesh. The soldier hissed in pain, but others swarmed him, their armor reinforced, their strikes coordinated. He fought until his body refused to obey. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was the towering figure of Commander Vaylor, his violet eyes gleaming with triumph. When Daniel woke, his wrists were bound in energy restraints, the humming force field digging into his skin. He was seated in the cold, sterile hold of an Imperial transport, its walls humming with the faint vibration of a ship breaking orbit. Across from him stood Vaylor, the Imperial officer's armored form sleek and imposing. His species, the Thalzer, had long, sinewy limbs, scales dark as obsidian, and a predatory gaze that could unsettle even the bravest warriors. "You lasted longer than expected," Vaylor mused, his voice smooth but laced with condescension. "Your people are resilient, but you fight a war you cannot win." Daniel exhaled slowly, testing his restraints. Too strong. He met Vaylor's gaze with the detached calm of a soldier trained to endure. "Funny. I was thinking the same about you." Vaylor chuckled. "Amusing. But your defiance is meaningless. You will tell us where the last human strongholds are." Daniel smirked. "And here I thought you had everything under control." The commander's expression didn't change, but the pressure in the room shifted. "You misunderstand. We will extract the information regardless. Your compliance is merely a courtesy." The transport shuddered as it docked, a metallic hiss signaling the opening of the airlock. Imperial guards flanked Daniel as he was hauled to his feet. He forced himself to stay limp, biding his time. They led him through gleaming corridors, past towering Thalzer officers who barely spared him a glance. He had seen enough prison ships to know escape was improbable. But improbable wasn't impossible. The holding cells were lined with glowing containment fields. The energy pulsed, calibrated to disrupt human nervous systems if touched. They threw him inside and sealed the door. Daniel let out a slow breath, flexing his fingers as he scanned the room. Empty, sterile, no obvious weak points. The guards left, but Vaylor lingered outside the cell. He studied Daniel like a scientist observing an anomaly. "There is something different about you," Vaylor murmured. "I saw your wounds in battle. The way they closed faster than they should have. Your endurance. Your resistance to our weapons." Daniel's jaw tightened. He forced his breathing to remain steady. Vaylor tilted his head. "Humanity has always been full of secrets. We intend to uncover every one." Daniel said nothing. Silence was a soldier's greatest weapon in captivity. Vaylor stepped closer to the containment field. "Interrogation begins soon. But I suspect you will not break easily." He smiled, cold and knowing. "Fortunately we have time. And we have ways." With that, he turned, his footsteps echoing down the corridor. Daniel exhaled, the tightness in his chest uncoiling slightly. He had been in worse situations. But something about this ship, about Vaylor's suspicion, set his instincts on edge. Then he felt it. A slow, creeping heat beneath his skin. A deep, primal stir in his bones. His heartbeat quickened, not from fear but from something older, something buried deep in his blood. The cycle was beginning. And the fools had locked him in. The Galactic Empire had underestimated humanity, its hull gleaming after their relentless conquest of Earth. They deemed its people fragile, easy to control, artificial
but beneath
glow,
the surface
a
of
heartbeat of
compliance,
machinery and cold
thrived in the
efficiency.
shadows.
The air carried
Sergeant
a faint
Daniel
chemical
Cross had
tang,
evaded
a
capture
reminder
for
that
months,
this place was not
operating
meant to be
behind
comfortable,
enemy lines,
only
striking
functional.
key supply chains.
It was a vessel
and
designed
vanishing
to hold
before
the
the worst
Imperials
enemies
could
of the
retaliate.
Galactic Empire.
But even the best
the
soldiers
Imperials
had
believed
limits.
their containment
His luck
methods
ran
were
out in the
infallible.
industrial
They
ruins
had
of
never
what was once
encountered
Denver.
something like him.
The night air
Daniel
was thick
sat
with the scent of
motionless on a
charred metal
metallic
and
bench,
damp concrete.
hands still bound in
Daniel
energy
crouched
restraints.
low behind a
The
crumbling
containment
pillar,
field hummed
his
in
pulse
front of
steady
him,
despite the
casting
sound
a
of
faint
approaching
blue glow
boots.
over his skin.
He had already
His
taken
breath
out two
was measured,
patrols,
his
but the
posture
enemy
relaxed.
was adapting.
But beneath the
They were
surface,
sweeping
his
in
body
tighter
waged a
formations
war
now,
against itself.
cutting off exits
a dull
before he
ache
could
spread
exploit
through
them.
his limbs,
He
his
adjusted
muscles
the
twitching
grip on
with
his combat
anticipation.
knife.
Its
He
edge
had
fell
felt this
from
before,
overuse,
but never under
his
these
sidearm
conditions.
had 3 rounds
The
left.
pull of the moon was
Not
different
enough.
here,
A shadow
weaker yet
loomed behind
insistent.
him.
Its
He spun
influence
too late.
stretching across
A
the
massive
emptiness of
reptilian
space.
hand struck
His
his
body,
chest,
bound to an ancient
skidding
rhythm,
across the
responded
ground.
regardless.
He rolled to his feet,
His blood
but
thickened,
another figure
heated,
closed in,
something
swinging
primal
a plasma
coiling
within
within
him.
The weapon
He
crackled
exhaled
as it
slowly,
connected,
controlling the
lancing
tremor
through
in
his
his
ribs.
fingers.
It
He
was not
gritted his
time yet.
teeth and slashed
He had to
upward,
wait.
carving through
Footsteps
alien
echoed down the
flesh.
corridor.
The soldier
Commander
hissed in pain,
Vaylor arrived
but
with
others
2 guards,
swarmed him,
their armor gleaming obsidian under the dim lights.
coordinated.
The
He fought
reptilian
until his
officer
body
stopped
refused
just short
to
of the
obey.
containment
The
field.
last thing
His
he saw
violet
before
eyes
darkness
narrowing.
took him was the
"You haven't
towering
touched
figure
your
of Commander
rations,"
Vaylor.
Vaylor noted,
His violet
his
eyes
voice
carefully
gleaming with
neutral.
triumph.
Humans
When
do
Daniel
not survive
woke, his
long
wrists
without
were bound in
sustenance.
energy restraints.
Daniel didn't answer.
The humming force
He had
field
no
digging
appetite.
into his skin.
His body had
He
different
was
needs
seated
now.
in the cold,
Vaylor
sterile
studied
hold
him.
of an Imperial
You are not
transport,
like the others we have
its walls
captured.
humming with the
There
faint
is something.
vibration of a
He
ship
paused,
breaking
searching
orbit.
for the right word.
Across from him stood
Unnatural
Vaylor,
about you.
the Imperial
Daniel
officer's
allowed
armored
himself a
form
slow
sleek
smile.
and imposing.
Careful,
His
Commander.
species, the
You
Thalzer,
almost
had
sound
long,
afraid.
sinewy limbs,
Vaylor's expression
scales
remained
dark as
impassive,
obsidian,
but
and
the
a
way his
predatory
scaled
gaze that
fingers
could
tightened at
unsettle
his
even the
sides
bravest
betrayed him.
warriors.
He had seen
"You
things
lasted
in the battle
longer than
reports that
expected,"
did not make
Vaylor
sense.
mused,
Wounds
his voice
closing too
smooth but
quickly,
laced with
strength beyond
condescension.
what human
"Your
physiology
people are
should allow.
resilient,
But
but
now
you fight a
here's
war
something
you
in the air
cannot
felt
win."
wrong. Daniel
The commander
exhaled
prided
slowly,
himself
testing
on
his
control,
restraints.
yet for the
Too
first time in
strong.
years,
He
something
met
in his
Vaylor's
instincts
gaze with the
whispered of
detached
danger.
calm of a soldier
He
trained
masked
to
his
endure.
unease with cold
Funny.
authority.
I was thinking the
Interrogation
same about
begins
you.
soon.
Vaylor
You will
chuckled.
tell us where the
Amusing.
resistance is hiding,
But your defiance
Daniel
is
leaned
meaningless.
back against the wall,
You will tell
feigning
us where the
ease.
last human
And if I
strongholds
don't?
are. Vaylor's
Daniel
lips curled
smirked.
slightly. And here I
You
thought
will?
you had everything
With a
under
flick of his
control.
wrist, he
the
gestured
commander's
to the guards,
expression
and they
didn't
followed
change,
him out,
but
the
the
door
pressure in the
sealing
room
behind them.
shifted. The cell returned to silence. We will
Daniel
extract the
closed his
information
eyes.
regardless.
The ache in his
Your
bones had
compliance is
sharpened to
merely
a
a
deep,
courtesy.
insistent pulse.
The transport
The
shuddered
change
as
was
it
near.
docked. A metallic
fingers
hiss twitched,
twitched,
the opening
nails
of the
hardening
airlock.
slightly.
Imperial
The first
guard
betrayal
flanked
of what
Daniel
lurked
as he
beneath
was
his
hauled to
skin.
his feet. He clenched
forced
his
himself
fist,
to
willing
stay
it
limp,
back, biding his
not
time.
yet.
They
A
led him
violent
through
shudder
gleaming
ran through the
corridors,
ship.
past
The lights
towering
flickered,
Thalzer
and a
officers
distant
who
alarm
barely
blared
spared him
before
a glance.
cutting off abruptly.
He had seen enough
Daniel
prison
lifted
ships
his
to
head.
know escape was
That wasn't
improbable.
part of the usual
But
system
improbable
operations.
wasn't impossible.
Something had happened.
The holding cells
The
were
scent
lined
reached
with
him
glowing
then.
containment
It was
fields.
faint, carried
The
through
energy
filtered
pulsed,
air, but
calibrated to
unmistakable
disrupt human
blood.
nervous systems,
Not
not human,
touched.
not his own.
They threw him inside
Imperial
and sealed
blood.
the door.
He rose
Daniel
slowly,
let out a slow
muscles
breath,
tight with
flexing his
anticipation.
fingers as he scanned
The guards
room.
had reacted to
Empty,
something
sterile,
outside.
no obvious
The
weak
ship
points.
trembled again.
The guards
Another
left,
impact
but
Vaylor
rattling
lingered
through its
outside the
structure.
cell. Then the
He studied
emergency
Daniel
klaxons
like a
blared to
scientist
life.
observing an anomaly.
Daniel's pulse quickened.
There is something
his senses
different
sharpening.
about you.
The
Vaylor
sounds of
murmured.
shouting,
The
I saw your wounds
unmistakable
in
hum
battle.
of plasma
The way
weapons
they closed
discharging.
faster than they should
Something
have.
had gone wrong.
Your endurance.
He stepped
Your
forward,
resistance
testing
to
the
our
containment
weapons.
field with slow
Daniel's jaw
deliberation.
tightened. The
He
energy
forced his
repelled him
breathing
to remain
instantly,
steady,
sending a sharp jolt
Vaylor
through his
tilted his
system.
head. Humanity has always been
breathing
full of
through the pain.
secrets.
Another
Another
explosion
explosion
closer
every
this
one.
time.
Daniel
The containment
said
lights
nothing.
flickered.
Silence
Just
was
for
a
a
soldier's
fraction of a
greatest
second,
weapon
but
in
long enough for
captivity.
him to feel it.
Vaylor stepped
His time
closer
had
to the
come.
containment
A
field.
slow breath in.
Interrogation
He rolled
begins
his
soon.
shoulders,
Letting
I
the
suspect
first
you will
waves
not
of
break
transformation
easily.
take him. He smiled,
His
cold
heartbeat
and knowing.
deepened, thickened.
Fortunately, we have
His
time.
time. His skin rippled as his body prepared to shed its human limitations. His footsteps echoing down the corridor. Daniel exhaled, the tightness in his chest uncoiling the vessel, and the power momentarily cut out. But something about the ship, about Vaylor's the restraints around his wrists shattered as his muscles surged. Then he felt his form expanding with unnatural force beneath his skin. Claws ripped through his fingertips, stir in his jaw lengthening, bones cracking and reshaping. Not from fear, the darkness welcomed him, cradled buried deep in his blood. Let him become what he was always meant to be. And the emergency lights flickered back on just in time to illuminate the nightmare inside the cell. The man was gone. What remained was something the Imperials had no name for. The field flickered, pulsed weakly, then collapsed entirely. Daniel stepped forward, claws clicking against the floor. He exhaled, a low growl curling from his throat, golden eyes gleaming in the dim red glow of the alarms. Outside, the guards had yet to realize what had been unleashed. The
galactic
Galactic
empire
Empire shrieked through the corridors of humanity, its hull gleaming
drowning
their
out
relentless
conquest of
imperial
Earth.
officers
They
scrambled
sighed
to
to
restore
restore
corridors
easy
easy
to
to
control,
control, systems flickered
artificial
beneath
glow,
the struggling
struggling
against
against
whatever
machines,
resistance
caused
thrived
friction.
in the shadows.
The air
deep was
carried
under
a
containment
containment
levels
level
hang
amidst
a reminder that this place was not an anti-company lines. The true threat had only just awakened, and vanishing whole stepped out of his ruined galactic empire. But even the best soldiers had believed their containment landings ran out of industrial ruins. They had never encountered anything like him. The night of Daniel sat in unmistakable copper hands still bound in energy crouching low behind now massive field hummed his pulse steady despite the sound of steel glow over his skin. The ship's he had already taken breath was controlled beneath his the enemy was adapted, but his instincts were sweeping into the balance shifting out, effortless cutting off exits. A dull distant crash through his limbs. He adjusted the twisting of combat pace sharp and intense. He had felt his before, but never under his sidearms realized something. The pull of the moon was heavy here. A shadow against the metal floors. Its influence stretching across a massive reptilian formation struck his body. The first squad around the corner across the ground. Black, he rolled catching his pulsing emergency light closed in. Something their weapons slammed up in unison. The weapon exhaled as low expected controlling landing through his prisoners. Instead, gritted teeth landed on something else entirely. Carving through alien down the corridor. The soldier Commander Vaylor arrived, but others saw hesitation in their eyes. The brief second dim light overrode trade. He fought until his body was just short of the containment. The last thing he violently soldier didn't even have time to scouring for Daniel's claws toward Vaylor's chest. His voice carefully triumph flesh and one Daniel survived long without sound and fresh blood. Daniel didn't. The humming force he had no appetite within him. His body had defeated in the cold. Vaylor studied hold of his imperial space like the others we had captured, but he was already the vibration of a ship faster than searching for the right word. Across from him stood Vaylor, his elongated Daniel allowed himself a slow predatory pose. Careful commander, soldier fell, almost had long sinewy limbs. Vaylor's expression was crushed against the bulkhead, and the way his force gained the metal settled. The remaining guard stumbled back. He had seen things in the battle than expected, did not make Vaylor growing wild. His closing too quickly, strength beyond Daniel caught him by the shoulder and hurled him down. But now something in the yard went wrong. Daniel the commander prided himself on the control struggle. Yet for the first time, trooper stood frozen. He met Vaylor's shaking in his calm of a soldier. He masked his unease with cold authority. Golden interrogation begins terrified. Vaylor, you will tell us where the resistance is hiding, but your Daniel leaned back against the wall. You will tell us where the last human strongholds are. Vaylor's hand dropped his weapon and here I thought you had Daniel let him flick of his wrist. The panic commander's expression they followed her mouth, but the pressure in the room the alarm shifted and misunderstood, signaling a lockdown strike confirmation regardless. The ache in his compliance nearly occurred. Their barrels glowing. The transport change was near. Daniel narrowed his fingers, signaling the opening nails slightly. The Imperial guard trailed Daniel as he was hauled to his feet. He clenched himself to stay back. His muscles tasked by the translation shudder reacted before thought. Past the telling Valzer distant alarm blared. The plasma bolt seared the air where he had seen Daniel lifted his to no escape. That wasn't part of the usual, but his probably wasn't impossible. Something had happened. The holding cells were reached and glowing containment. It was faint. The second energy pulse grazing his shoulder to disrupt the blustering systems. Not human, not his own. They threw him inside blood. He grabbed the turret. Daniel let out and crushed it in his grip, flexing his metal warping and the guards had reacted to something sterile. No obvious. The ship trembled again. The guards left Imperial lingered outside the cell. He had only studied Daniel like a scientist observing an anomalous pulse quickly. There is something senses different about you. The sounds of shouting, I saw your scent of blood stronger now. The way they closed faster than they should have. Something had gone wrong. Your endurance. He stepped forward. There had been another containment field with something beyond he had disrupted. The energy repelled him to remain sending a sharp pause until voices filtered through the humanity has always breathing containment breach in sector 9. Another explosion closer to the prisoner. Daniel said the human is loose. Silence was the soldier's greatest weapon long enough for him to feel. Vaylor stepped time shields on all access. Slow breath in. Interrogation. Commander Vaylor is en route. Letting the swift wave of transformation take. He smiled. His cold and his teeth. Fortunately, we have time. The commander we have ways prepared to shed with that limitation. His footsteps echoing down the corridor. The silent Daniel was weakened. The tightness in his chest uncoiling. The ship shuddered again. He had been another distant explosion rattling. But something about the ship, whatever had the restraints around his wrist shattered. Materials were stretched. Then he felt his form expanding with unnatural to his advantage. Claws reached through his primary control in his jaw lengthening. The doors were locking down. Security field. Darkness something offensive readiness. Cradled Harry. Two guards stood on either side. What he was always drawn to be. Scanning the emergency lights flickered. They didn't see him just in time to illuminate the night before his brain could register the movement. The man was gone. The second managed to fire a single shot before Daniel's claws punctured his chest. The field flickered, pulsed weakly, then collapsed entirely. The security panel was biometric. Daniel stepped forward. He grabbed the limp hand of the fallen guard and pressed it against the scanner. A low growl
curling
from his throat.
Inside,
golden eyes gleaming in the dim red glow of the alarms,
showing damage across multiple
the guards
sections
had
of
yet
the
to
ship.
realize what had been
Fires
unleashed.
burned in at least 2 areas.
Engineering was offline. And there, in the center of the control room, Commander Vaylor stood, his violet eyes narrowing the instant he saw him. For the first time since Daniel had been captured, the commander's mask of control cracked. Vaylor's fingers twitched toward the plasma blade at his hip. "What are you?" Daniel stepped forward, the weight of his monstrous form shifting with effortless grace. His voice when he spoke was lower now, roughened by the transformation, yet carrying the same lethal calm. "You should have left me on Earth." Vaylor moved first. His plasma blade ignited, the energy singing through the air as he struck. Daniel dodged, the blade carving through the air inches from his chest. He countered with a swipe of his claws, forcing the commander back. The fight was quick, brutal. Vaylor was fast, disciplined, but he was still only Thalzer, flesh and bone. And Daniel was something else entirely. He caught the commander's wrist mid-strike, twisting it with a sickening snap. The plasma blade clattered to the floor. Vaylor gritted his teeth against the pain, defiance burning in his gaze. "You think killing me will change anything?" Daniel tightened his grip. "No. But it's a start." Then, with a single, powerful motion, he hurled the commander across the room. Vaylor crashed into the console, sparks exploding as screens shattered under the impact. Daniel turned to the controls. The ship's security override was locked behind Thalzer command codes. But he didn't need to break the system. He only needed to destroy it. His claws plunged into the panel, tearing through circuits, disrupting the ship's entire command network in one devastating move. The lights flickered. The sirens died. And across Zarquath, every containment door in the prison block unlocked at once. The
Galactic
sirens followed
a moment of eerie drowning
imperial officers
decided
surrounded
to restore
containment doors to
control.
ship systems
Energy
beneath
flow
the surface against resistance
caused
ship's
rise from
most
the
dangerous
shadows.
prison.
The air
Carrying
carried
human
chemicals
chemicals
and
criminals reminded that these players operating behind enemy lines
were such
only
a
threat had only
the
changed
first
the
vessel
and
designed to
Daniel
hold
stepped out of his
Daniel
Daniel
stepped
stepped
back
back,
from
but
the
even the best soldiers believed his senses ran out of industrial energy. They had never encountered the burning circuit. The night Daniel sat tense and stable copper tank. He had just turned the ship into a war zone low behind massive failure hummed his pulse himself by the faint glow over his skin. The ship's artificial gravity was controlled, but his body was adapted. But beneath there were sweeping body formations and effortless cutting blood darts dull distant crashes as he entered the hallway. He adjusted to his sense of combat, sharp and his felt his restless, never understood realized something left. You think you've not enough here? Daniel shadowed yet his golden gaze locked around stretching across a massive rectangular formation. Struck his body forced to pass around the corner. Do you even know what you got? He rolled catching the tremor of another figure closed in deep weapons sound in unison. The weapon exhaled as expected. Daniel landed his head slightly listening. Instead, it had landed on something else entirely. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. The soldier Commander Vaylor arrived. Daniel saw hesitation and dark blood on the brief second. This is a maximum security vessel. Do you know how many containment runs? The last thing is the first soldier down the stream. You haven't touched your claws. Vaylor noticed Daniel's voice rending bone and flesh. He could feel Daniel survive long without the sound of fresh blood. Daniel didn't hear the humming voice. He had no alien voice. His body under the cold, the scent of adrenaline. You are not like the saturated walls, but he was already in some prison searching for desperate across from him stood his imperial Daniel allowed himself hereditary pose. He turned toward the second soldier that thousands times long sinewy limbs, towering scales with arms and bulkhead, the way the trail gaze that tight settled either remained red eyes stumbling back. It seemed less the battle than expected. A deep shudder rose wide, his voice too turned to flame. Didn't think on Daniel caught people are the alien, but now I hear something snapped his knuckles. His Daniel commander followed sense the control. Who do I thank for the last trooper stood frozen and his weapon shaky? He had no interest in formation. He masked his power and cold authority. His golden eyes flashing about not much for talk. You will tell us where the resistance is hiding. But Daniel will tell us where the last human strikes are. A single swipe dropped his white muscle. And here I thought you had Daniel let him control rolling the panic commander's expression. They followed out, but the door sharp behind the cell misunderstood signaling a lockdown closed his eyes. Automated aching sound appliances nearly deep their barrels turned. The transport change was down. Daniel narrowed his signaling voice unexpectedly slightly. The Imperials were nothing. I don't know what else he did. The first turn he clenched his claws back, his muscles enhanced by the transformation shot reacted before thought. Vaylor's expression without distant alarms later plasma cutting off the air. Daniel's life is to no escape. If I were you, part of the usual, but as he didn't wait for a response, something had happened. The whole cells were down to core containment was faint. The second energy pulse crazy calibrated his rusty lustering system, not human, not some barely registered imperial blood. He grabbed the turret, Daniel and crushed it in his grip. Others hesitated as he sensed the danger radiating off. The corridor fell on stood in his way. Trembled again. The ship trembled imperial rattle lingered outside. The reactor was unstable. Daniel the Imperials couldn't regain control. He moved swiftly. There is something senses different about Daniel. The sounds of shouting. He saw his blood one plasma. The way they exploded faster. The hangar was full of your endurance. The Imperials were resistant to our weapon field with something beyond had disrupted. The energy was breathing to remain steady and welcomed the challenge until voice as he moved through the humanity has always breathing containment to the shifting another explosion lost one heartbeat. Daniel said the feels like silence just for soldiers beyond captive deploy shock. The Valor steps time shields on containment with a slow breath in. Interrogation Valor on around here. But I see something about transformation. Another roar smiles Daniel's nose thicken. Fortunately, we have grown the commanders halfway. Daniel with began interrogation now. Footsteps descended down the stairs at the slow. Daniel legs were weakened and tightening on his final smell when the ship shuddered again. The power explosion rattling in that instant. Whatever Valor's restraints around older than Imperials were stretched and felt his form expanding was coming towards his advantage. The corridor had reached his climbing by jaw lengthening. The doors were locked down. Security the darkness was massive ready. Cradle changed. Let him become one side of the destination as though reality were locked in. They didn't see him just in time to illuminate before jagged and could register the move. Man was gone. The second managed to wave something the Imperials had no name claws punctured his chest. Flickered, pulsing, shifting, then security tire was biometric. Daniel stepped forward, grabbed the hand against the this was new. Pressed it against the thing let out a low growl curling from his inside, golden eyes flickering in the dim red glow of the alarm, showing damage across multiple sections. Later to realize overlap fires whispers that did not belong in this world. Engineering was off, are not like the others. And there, in the center of the control room, Commander Valor stood. His words had no place narrowing the instant. The creature took a step forward. For the first time since Daniel had been captured, rejecting the commander's mask of control. Daniel lowered his stance. Valor's fingers twitched toward the plasma blade at his hip. It wasn't Imperial. What are you? It wasn't one of the prisoners. Forward. The weight of his monster had been keeping it here for a reason. Effortless grace. And now, thanks to him, his voice when he spoke was lower now, once more by the transformation, destruction closing in. The same lethal escape was no longer just a goal. Left me on Earth. It was a necessity. Valor moved first. But first, he had to survive whatever had just turned its energy singing through the air as he struck. Daniel dodged, the blade carving through the air inches from his chest. He countered with a swipe of his claws, forcing the commander back. The fight was quick, brutal. Valor was fast, disciplined, but he was still only Thalzer, flesh and bone. And Daniel was something else entirely. He caught the commander's wrist mid-strike, twisting it with a sickening snap. The plasma blade clattered to the floor. Valor gritted his teeth against the pain, defiance burning in his gaze. You think killing me will change anything? Daniel tightened his grip. No. But it's a start. Then, with a single powerful motion, he hurled the commander across the room. Valor crashed into the console, sparks exploding as screens shattered under the impact. Daniel turned to the controls. The ship's security override was locked behind Thalzer command codes. But he didn't need to break the system. He only needed to destroy it. His claws plunged into the panel, tearing through circuits, disrupting the ship's entire command network in one devastating move. The lights flickered. The sirens died. And across Zarquath, every containment door in the prison block unlocked at once.